Today, the Gone Fishin' cruise in eastern Manitoba near the town of Pine Falls on the Winnipeg River. Your hosts, T.J. Schwanke and Bob Kirkpatrick, have gone fishing for white bass. Aside from the trophy white bass on the Winnipeg River, the angler will find freshwater drum or silver bass, as they're known locally. Smallmouth bass in the fast-flowing rapids. And behemoth channel catfish. As you can see, the visiting angler can expect a real mixed bag from the Winnipeg River system.
Hi, I'm Bob Kirkpatrick.
I'm T.J. Schwanke. Welcome to Gone Fishing.
We're at Pine Falls in eastern Manitoba. We're going to see if we can catch some white bass. We got one on here already.
The Winnipeg River system here, it's full of a lot of species of fish. We're targeting white bass today, but anything else we catch we're going to take. And hey, that's a nice bass. That's your first white bass?
That's my first white bass.
All right.
They look like they're going to be a lot of fun.
They are.
They sure fight hard anyway.
Yeah.
Well, get this one back. I picked one up here, TJ.
All right. As you can probably see, the weather hasn't improved any today. It's really gotten cold too, and the fish are a little more scattered. White bass are usually quite a tight schooling fish. That's a nice bass. And what we found,
smacked that crank.
Yeah, I just had one just before that, but usually they're quite a tight schooling fish. When you catch one, you can catch 30 or 40 usually, but I think what's happened when the barometric pressure drops, it kind of turns fish off and often causes them to scatter, and we're kind of on a big flat right here. And rather than being all grouped in one group, they've scattered out all over. So what we're doing is just trolling through them and hoping to pick some up. And we've also picked up some other species. So if you ever get in a situation where you're not catching a lot of fish, or you're not catching the fish you're targeting, go out and try for something else, and trolling is a good way to locate them.
These fish have, you notice they have stripes on them above the lateral line. They run all the way through, and then below they're broken up. Now these are related to the striped bass as well, and they do cross them with the striped bass and make a hybrid called a wiper. And they grow quite large. They're quite a sporting fish. Now, I've talked to some people that have eaten these. They said they're really good smoked, but I think they're more valuable as a sporting fish. They put up quite a fight for the size of them. We're going to let this one get back in there and grow a little bit bigger. This is pretty average size, I think, eh?
Yeah, about 11, 12 inches is probably the average size you catch.
Well, I'm going to get this one back in. There it goes. Well, TJ, I just got another one. We've been trolling along the edge of this little bay. The wind's blowing in here, and it's probably blowing the food up against the edge of the ledge in here. And this thing smacked the crankbait pretty hard. Now, I imagine it's another bass. Oh yeah, it's a nice one. Yeah. Using a rattling flatwort. It's a storm lure, and it's got, oh, it's a drum.
Another one of the species found here.
So we catch just about every species in here.
These fish aren't really eaten by a lot of people. They're a little oily and greasy, but the sporting quality is quite good with them, actually.
Well, you put up a good fight.
Yeah. Now, they get up to 10 or 12 pounds, actually. And they are quite aggressive feeders, as are the white bass.
Well, that fought just like the last white bass I had on.
So your first drum?
Another first. That's 3 in a row.
Now, I've been lucky. I've lived in Manitoba and fished here quite a bit, so I've caught these species, but there's one thing I can say about Manitoba. It's definitely the land of variety. There's so many species of fish here. It's unbelievable.
Hey TJ, look at the colors on there. There's a kind of a green glow on the top of this thing.
Well, I know the walleyes here in Lake Winnipeg get that same color. They've earned that name greenback. And
well, I'm gonna get back. Yeah, I'm gonna get this one back. That's really neat, though. The colors on there.
Well, they call it a drum because they actually make a sound. It's quite unique. Sometimes you hear them just drumming away when you catch them. So that's where they've earned their name from. They're also called silver bass here by the locals, and that's what they usually refer to. Most people don't call them freshwater drum, but that is their proper name.
Now there's the bait I was using. It's got rattles in it, and I imagine that helped to attract the fish and get them in there.
This water's a little stained. There's been a lot of rain here and the current's up, so it is important to get some noise happening down there so they can locate that bait easier.
Now that fish was suspended. It wasn't on the bottom. I'm running this bait down. We're in about 16 or 18 feet of water, and I'm running this bait down 10 or 12 feet. So whatever it was came up and hit it. Wasn't relating right to the bottom. So let's make another pass on there and see what we can get this time.
Yeah.
Oh, there's one, TJ.
That one?
Yeah.
I was having some bang in there too, but
Seemed to have really turned on now. You got him?
oh, he hit there again. Yeah.
Double, eh?
Just hit him while he was coming in. Really turned on here all of a sudden. I don't know why, but
Whoa! I lost mine.
LDR, long distance release.
A lot of fun anyway.
Well, I got a little one here. Now we're just downstream of the Pine Falls Dam. And this area is really well known for its white bass fishery. Boy, did this one ever eat it.
Well, I don't know what that one did. He tied me in a knot.
If you look in the Master Angler's book, you'll see this is probably one of the areas where most of the Master Angler's bass come from, the white bass. Boy, this one's got it right down. Have you got forceps there?
Yeah.
Or pliers? There's pliers right there even. Right beside my seat. So yeah, if you're planning a trip for white bass, this is probably one of the better areas in the province to consider. Now there's other bodies of water. Most of the ones that flow into Lake Winnipeg do have white bass. But this is definitely one of the most productive. That's about the average size of them there. They have a Master Anglers program in Manitoba where you get an award for catching big fish. And the minimum is 15 inches. This one here is about 13. So I'll get rid of him.
Well, I think there's some master ones in here. Let's see if we can get them. There, I'm untangled.
This blue and chrome really seems to be the hot color, though. We're trolling these baits about 10 feet. And there's just a point there, and it actually comes up onto a hump. And every time we just go over top of it is when we're getting them. And then we got a double there, and so let's go get another one.
Oh, there's one, TJ.
Oh,
This feels like a better one.
Get out of your way here.
Boy, they're sure smacking those crankbaits now.
They seem to have turned on, and we're starting to mark some on the sonar, which we weren't before. So whether they moved in here or just got a little more active, I'm not sure, but they're sure going now.
Well, we're following this break right around here, and he seems to be hanging right around that 14 to 18 foot range, or at least that's the area we're working.
Oh yeah, nice one.
He's scrappy. You can hear that bait rattling. This isn't, this is a nice size one too.
Yeah, they got such soft mouths. Barbless hooks pop out pretty easy.
That rattle bait really makes a difference. I'm sure that's what they're keying in on.
Now, well, this line right here is what's called the lateral line. And what it does is sense vibration in the water. And that's what those rattles do, is send out a vibration. Now, all lures send out a vibration, but the rattles just send out a little more. And since this water is a little bit dirty, it makes them easier to find the bait. And they can sense that from 30 to 50 feet away. And what they do is sense those rattles, and they'll move in towards it to see what it is. Once they get close enough, they can see it. And I'm going to get him back in before he jumps in.
Now, this blue and chrome seems to be the color that they're going on the best. We've tried a half a dozen different colors, and like TJ said, the rattle attracts them, and then I think the color must represent some natural forage that they're going on in here, but blue and chrome seems to be the answer today. I think we're going to just keep working this area, and if we can find them stacked up, maybe we'll stop and jig them or something.
Sounds good. I think I'm going to put one of those on. Where are they going now? Now, we're using a rattling flatwort. It's a crankbait by Storm. And we're tying directly to the lure. And I know a lot of people use leaders or use snap swivels, and it's not a good idea If you're going to use anything, just use a cross-lock snap. And by tying directly to the lure using a snap, you change the action quite a bit, and it seems today that this is what they're keying in on, is this action. And it's pretty important to duplicate what you're doing all the time.
Now, ooh, this is a better fish. Now I am using a cross-lock snap because I was trying a bunch of different colors of baits to see which ones.
Yeah.
Ooh, that one's just barely hooked. We're going to get them in there right away. I was changing baits quite often to finally figure out what color and style they were going to go on, so I do have a cross-lock snap, but it's without the swivel. That's a little nicer fish, TJ.
Yeah. So anytime you're using cranks, unless you're into the big pike where you have to use a leader, try to avoid, snap swivels. And like Bob says, just a cross-lock snap is what you want to use if you're going to use a snap, but be aware that the action is different between a bait tied directly onto the line or one with a snap.
Now these fish have very soft mouths, and quite often we'll get a hit and they'll pull right out on the corner here, but right now they seem to be so aggressive they're going right at it and they're getting hooked pretty good.
Yeah, neat little fish, ain't they?
The Winnipeg River is noted for its great diversity of sport fish and is home to some real trophies. It's only been recently, however, that white bass have found their way north to Manitoba. They began showing up in the late 1970s and are now well established in the Red and Winnipeg rivers. It's thought that they made their way north from North Dakota naturally when work began on the Garrison diversion. No matter how they got here, white bass are now a permanent favorite of Manitoba anglers. White bass are highly gregarious by nature, and once a school is found, large numbers of fish can usually be caught in that location. Casting or trolling crankbaits and spinners are the two methods favored for hooking these scrappy little fighters, but they're also taken frequently by bait fishermen. A quick glance through the Master Angler Awards indicates just how good the Winnipeg River system is. Of the nearly 180 entries, over 50 came from these turbid waters. The only water with more entries is the Red River, and when you consider the pressure there, it quickly escalates the Winnipeg River to Manitoba's #1 producer of trophy white bass. The Winnipeg River system is actually a series of lakes and rivers created by several hydroelectric dams. These were some of Manitoba's first power stations and continue to be a major producer of electricity for Manitoba. The dam at Pine Falls is the last one on the system before the Winnipeg River flows into massive Lake Winnipeg. While the white bass spend much of their time in the Big Lake, they begin to move up the river in mid-June and remain until freeze-up. The Pine Falls Dam provides an artificial barrier that the fish cannot get around. Consequently, large numbers of fish congregate in the stretch of river below the dam and provide excellent angling.
Now as you notice, we're going backwards. It's called back trolling. And that's one of the things you can do with a big boat like this and a big motor. Going backwards into the current or into the wind helps slow this boat down so we can still go quite slow. And you don't have to worry about our lines tangling up in the big motor. We can turn around, we can actually make a circle without our lines crossing. There's nothing in the front of the boat to catch the line. So back trolling, oh, you got one already?
Yeah.
It's pretty effective, as you can see too. I'll shut this down now.
All right. Now, these bass aren't in this river system the whole year. They actually move in here from the lake when the water temperatures get up around 60 degrees. And
well, water temperature right now is about 64, 65 degrees. So
it seems around June is when they really, boy, look at that, he ate the whole thing.
a lot of times, at that time of the year, when it gets warmer, the walleye and the other target species are hard to catch. And I mean, you can come in and have a great time with catching fish like this. There's, on a good day, you can catch 100 of these things, and they really fight hard. They're a lot of fun.
But it's kind of the dog days of summer when you're having trouble catching other fish is when these fish start going, especially those hot, sunny days. Well, look how thick that one is. So, but it really starts about June and continues right up and through until September. I know they have a tournament here in the fall, a walleye tournament, and guys catch a lot of these during the walleye tournament. So they're a great species to target during the summer when you're having trouble catching other fish.
Now these fish spend part of the year out in Lake Winnipeg and then come up this system, isn't that right?
Yeah. There it goes. This is a lot of fun. I think we got them pinpointed now.
Every time we cross over that bar, they're there.
Got another one, Bob.
I'll shut down.
This feels like a little better one.
We get a fish every time we go over this spot. I'm going to punch it into the GPS.
Ready?
There, we're saved.
This sure feels like a better fish. Now, locating these fish is the key, and it's not uncommon to catch, 40 or 50 off the same point once you locate them. And I know points do seem to be the key. Yeah, it feels a lot better.
Like a good fish.
Yeah.
Now I punched that spot in on GPS, and we can come back here. We can get right back on this spot at any time. It'll take me right back there. I can come back here next week, or I can take these coordinates and give them to a friend, and they can come out here and find this spot. You need a net for that
There's
one?
a nice fish, yeah. Let me grab that net. This looks like a master angler one to me.
Oh, definitely.
All right, thank you.
Fish.
Now, what a great species for the family to come out. They're quite aggressive, and trolling is an excellent way to catch them, and it's a prime way for kids to catch fish. So all they have to do is hang onto the rod. It doesn't take any kind of a specialized presentation. He really hooked there, wasn't he? Got those pliers right here. Even though these hooks are barbless, you drive it into that bottom jaw, it really holds. Now the sides of their mouth are quite soft, but that one is right into the bottom.
Well, that is a nice fish.
I bet it is. I'm going to take and measure him, and maybe I'll be able to get a Master Angler award for him. Oh yeah,
17 inches. Just about 17 inches.
that's a big white bass. I think I'll register him for Master Angler Award. I'm going to put him in the live well, get a couple pictures, and we'll let him go. Today we're fortunate to have Rick Spruik with us. Now Rick's been kind of guiding us around the lake here, and he's been running our camera boat for us. Now Rick's a professional walleye fisherman. He's a pretty tough competitor on the trail, but also he's quite an expert with electronics, and he's going to share a little information with us about a new age in electronics called GPS.
Hey, thanks TJ. You know, it's always a pleasure to get out and fish with you and Bob. I don't get to see you guys as much as I'd like to, but living in separate provinces, it's a little difficult. What I really want to talk to you guys about today, of course, is not only GPS, but how to use GPS with your present sonar. In fact, using them as a team is real important. Now, GPS has come out 3 years ago, and it's really revolutionized fishing, especially the open water basin fishing, where once in a while you used to be able to stumble onto fish and then never find them again. Now with GPS, you're capable of going back not only to the same spot, but marking that spot on your location and fishing those fish time and time again. And before I get into how GPS works, maybe I'll just explain what it is. GPS stands for Global Positioning System. Now there's presently 21 satellites in orbit, and what I have in my boat is a transmitter and a receiver and an antenna. Now the antenna is capable of picking up 4 of those satellites at any given time, and it triangulates my position based on latitude, longitude, and altitude. My present latitude and longitude, of course, is punched in. Most airports can quite easily give you that information, or a good map for that matter. Now once I've got that information in, my machine triangulates my position pretty well within, they say, 15 meters. So that's pretty accurate. Now when I go fishing, I simply head out, and when I find a spot I want to return to, I punch what's called a waypoint. Now that machine memorizes that spot, and when I want to come back to that spot, I punch waypoint recall, and of course I keep a log of where spot number 1 was, and number 2, and number 3, etc. And you mark all your best spots. It's good for pleasure fishing, it's good for tournament angling, and it really puts you back on the fish in a hurry, and eliminates a lot of time searching. So that's the first most important reason for using it, saving time, fishing dead water, getting back on active fish. Now once I've triangulated my position and I get onto the fish, I also use my GPS to fish the spot. Now that's something that a lot of people aren't doing. Usually you think, well, if I can just find a spot, I'll fish it. But you know, some of the bigger lakes in Alberta and Saskatchewan that we've had to fish tournaments at, you can go for sometimes a half mile or a quarter mile fishing an open water flat, and the depth doesn't change a foot. Now where on that 15 foot did you catch that last fish? What I do is I use my plotter screen. I keep my flasher on, of course, which tells me that I'm on my 15 foot, if in case that's what I was fishing. Now on the plotter, it's sort of like, the best way you can describe it, and I'll show it to you in a minute, is an Etch-a-Sketch. You know, the kids' toys we used to have. It actually marks a little line, and I actually scribe a line back and forth over my trail. And every time I go over the same trail, I'm catching the same fish. Now, if I don't catch any fish, I certainly don't go over that same trail. In fact, I'll run what I call a grid or an S pattern until I find active fish on the flats. Once I find those fish, then I reproduce that trolling run, and I'll stay on the active fish. And that's won me money in tournaments, believe it or not, especially last year at Alberta. Staying on the active fish at Lesser Slave was very important. Instead of just catching a fish and keeping on going, by the time you turn around and come back a half a mile, you're really not sure where you were. Now, the 1993 version of the GPS has come up with a new idea. It's called icons. What that actually allows you to do when you catch a fish on these open water flats is push a button called an icon button, which will put a symbol on your screen. Now, instead of throwing out a marker buoy, which by the way is illegal to do in a lot of the new tournaments, I push the icon, it plants a little fish on my plotter screen. So I can not only scribe marks back and forth on my plotter screen, I can actually see little icons of fish where I've caught fish. Now, wherever I see a heavy concentration of previous icons, I know that's where my school is the most heavily concentrated. It's very effective for not only staying on active fish, but sometimes switching presentations. If I've made 5 trolling runs and I've caught 5 fish all at the same spot, I might slow it right down and go to a finesse presentation and try and get bigger fish out of the school. And again, that's the key about using the GPS in conjunction with your flasher or other sonar. Now, I happen to have a combination unit, and as quickly as a push of the button, I can switch from GPS to sonar, and believe me, it's just the cat's meow. And angling in the 90s is really, that's what it's all about. Not only getting on the fish, catching the fish. Everybody knows that there's been oodles and oodles of material written on how to catch fish. What we really have to key on is getting on the active fish, because you know when you're on them, you'll catch them.
I think I got one. I think so. Got a hit anyway. Got him? I think. No, he's gone. No, I got him.
Well, Bob, it looks like there's another rain shower blowing in. Maybe we should call it a day.
And we've had a great time here at Pine Falls. We've caught a variety of different fish. We've got smallmouth, drum, white bass. We've got 4 or 5 master angler white bass. And we'd like to thank Rick Spruik for coming along and guiding us, and also for showing us a little bit more about GPS.
Until next time, we're gone fishing.